It was a night that promised fireworks, and the EFC delivered with a main card bout that had fans buzzing long before the fighters stepped into the cage. Rizlen Zouak versus Bunmi Ojewole wasn't just a fight. It was a grudge match between two of the toughest women in the sport. The trash talk leading up to the bout had hit a boiling point. Emotions were high. Pressure was heavier. What followed was 25 minutes of raw emotion, unmatched aggression, and a test of will that turned the arena into a pressure cooker. Rizlen Zouak, known for her Olympic-level judo and ruthless ground game, walked in with a stone-cold glare. She hadn't tasted defeat in 3 years, and she didn't plan to start now. Across from her stood Bunmi Ojewole, the Nigerian powerhouse with dynamite in her hands and a heart made of steel. She'd been calling for this fight for months, and now, here it was. The bell rang and the storm broke. Round 1 opened with both fighters charging into center cage. Rizlen moved like a tactician, hands high, patient, controlling range with calculated movement. Bunmi, she came in swinging. A wild right hook cracked against Rizlen's temple within the first minute. Rizlen staggered. The crowd erupted, but she didn't fall. Rizlen clinched, pulled Bunmi into a body lock, and executed a textbook hip throw that sent Bunmi crashing to the mat. In a flash, Rizlen moved to side control, then full mount. Elbows rained down. The crowd shifted from cheers to gasps. Bunmi bucked hard, escaping back to her feet. They traded strikes until the horn. 1 round in and already a war. In round 2, Bunmi came out with a vengeance. She knew Rizlen would try to take her down again, so she kept the distance, using sharp jabs and brutal low kicks to keep the grappler at bay. A right hook landed, then a left. Rizlen's lip split. Blood dripped, but she stayed calm. Another clinch, another trip. Back to the ground, Rizlen threatened an armbar, but Bunmi stacked her and escaped. For every moment, Rizlen dominated on the ground. Bunmi answered with thunder on the feet. They were trading rounds in pain. By round 3, the tension was unbearable. Both women wore the fight on their faces, swollen eyes, cut brows. No one backed down. Rizlen shot for a double leg. Bunmi sprawled, stuffed it, and kneed her in the body. Rizlen winced. Bunmi pounced. Left hook, uppercut, elbow. Rizlen clinched again, but this time Bunmi reversed and slammed her to the mat. The crowd went ballistic. The tide had shifted in. Round 4, Rizlen's experience kicked in. She faked a takedown and landed a sneaky overhand left. Bunmi returned fire with a spinning back fist that grazed Rizlen's chin. They both paused, nodded, and threw down. A wild exchange in the pocket saw both fighters wobble, then a trip Rizlen back on top. This time, she passed to side control and trapped Bunmi's arm. She postured and unleashed elbows until the horn. Final round, they touched gloves. A gesture of respect in a fight that had none in the build-up. Now, all that was left was heart. Bunmi threw a head kick to open, blocked. Rizlen countered with a body shot and clinched. The two women grappled against the fence, knees flying, heads clashing. Then Rizlen dragged Bunmi down again, but Bunmi rolled, reversed, and landed on top. For the final minute, they traded positions, throwing punches, fighting for pride, honor, and dominance. When the bell rang, the crowd was on its feet. Both women were exhausted, bloodied, and breathing fire. The judges scored it unanimously for Rizlen Zouak, but the respect was unanimous for both. No one walked away doubting Bunmi's heart. No one questioned Rizlen's dominance. In the post-fight interview, Rizlen said, "She hit me harder than anyone ever has. But that wasn't a fight. That was survival. Bunmi, bruised but smiling, told reporters, "I came for war, and I got it. I'll be back. She's tough, but I'm tougher." Social media exploded. Fighters from around the world hailed it as one of the most violent, technical, and emotional fights in EFC history. Because it wasn't just the damage they took, it was the fire they refused to lose. And on that July night, inside that cage, they became more than fighters. They became legends. This was a war. This was EFC, and no one who saw it will forget Rizlen versus Bunmi anytime soon. Under the lights of the EFC arena in Johannesburg, a storm was brewing. Two of the toughest, most relentless women in the organization were about to clash. Rizlen Zouak and Bunmi Ojewole weren't just contenders. They were warriors set on collision. The tension in the crowd was thick, the energy almost unbearable. This was the kind of matchup that promised violence and delivered more than anyone expected. Rizlen walked to the cage with a cold, controlled expression. An Olympic-level judoka with a killer instinct, she had made a habit of making opponents quit. Bunmi, meanwhile, was fire. She marched to the cage with fists clenched, eyes burning. She'd called out Rizlen. She wanted this fight. And she was ready to bleed for it. The first round detonated from the opening bell. Bunmi charged like a battering ram, throwing haymakers with reckless abandon. Rizlen, calm under pressure, parried and countered with straight punches and a low kick. Then came the clinch, Rizlen's domain. She whipped Bunmi over her hip and slammed her to the mat. Instantly, she moved to mount. Bunmi bucked like a bronco. Elbows rained down. Bunmi reversed. They scrambled. The horn sounded with both on their feet, chests heaving. Round 2 saw Bunmi more calculated. She punished Rizlen's lead leg with chopping kicks and jabbed her way in. A right hook landed flush. Rizlen stumbled. Bunmi seized the moment, pressing her against the cage and throwing short punches. But Rizlen ducked under and scored a big takedown. On the mat, she hunted for an arm triangle choke. Bunmi defended, reversed. It was a seesaw of momentum by round 3. Both women showed the damage. Swollen cheeks, bloodied lips, bruised torsos. Rizlen's pace slowed, but her technique didn't falter. She feinted low, then shot in and slammed Bunmi again. Bunmi tried to tie her up, but ate elbows instead. Then, with seconds left, Bunmi exploded to her feet and landed an uppercut that snapped Rizlen's head back. The crowd was electric. Round 4 was trench warfare. Bunmi pressed forward, throwing looping hooks and battering Rizlen's ribs with knees. Rizlen clinched, trying to slow the chaos. Bunmi resisted the takedown and reversed it, planting Rizlen on her back. For the first time, she unleashed a barrage of hammer fists. Rizlen scrambled out, latched on a single leg, and dragged her down again. The round ended with Rizlen in side control. Peppering punches, 5th and final round. They stared each other down before touching gloves. Respect earned, war not yet finished. Bunmi opened with a vicious head kick that whistled past Rizlen's face. They exchanged heavy leather in the center of the cage. Bunmi landed a brutal right hand. Rizlen countered with a knee in the clinch. Then a trip takedown on the ground. Rizlen worked to mount. Bunmi bridged, scrambled back to her feet. They brawled until the last bell. When the final horn sounded, the arena exploded. Both fighters collapsed to their knees, drained, bloodied, but unbroken. The judges rendered a unanimous decision in favor of Rizlen Zouak. She'd weathered the storm. She'd used every tool in her arsenal. She earned the win, but Bunmi, she earned something more. The crowd chanted her name as she stood, battered but defiant. Rizlen's post-fight speech was short. "That was hell. She's a warrior. We both are." Bunmi's response: "I came to take her soul. I couldn't, but I'll be back for it." That night wasn't just a fight, it was a war. It was survival, grit, fury, and heart poured into 25 unforgettable minutes. 2 names. 1 battle, Rizlen, Bunmi, and a memory no one in EFC will ever